Good afternoon, Mr. Campbell. I'm glad that I have you here today. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Post me and you, post following your campaign, your story. Outside in these streets, we feel like you're T'Challa. To me, you're like a superhero, really. You've done so much. You've touched so many people. You're an expert inside of your fields. And the question that I have most is why we should believe in you and why we need to, and what do you have to say about the allegations that I read inside an article that came out recently. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to respond.
Yes. I think you're talking about the article where they say I beat or hit my wife.
Yes, sir.
So I've heard a lot of that during the course, and it's not a recent article. What they do is they will pay to push it back up. So the article is like maybe 7, 8 months old, believe it or not. And when you read it, I'm going to give you a different perspective. For me, when I had my first marriage and a divorce, it was about 3 years. So what the article did was it compressed 3 years into look like one day. Because when I read it the first time, I was like, wow, when did that happen? I'm trying to remember that day, But I can tell you, when you look at it, what's happened over 3 years, there's actually a baby missing, meaning my middle son is not even in the article because you can't tell the story if you tell it truthfully, and you can't get to where they got in the story. So for me, my wife actually was already out of the house. She had already been gone. She wanted to get back in the house, so she called the police, drove up, called the police. I didn't even know she was out there. The good thing about that is I said, on the way out the door while they let her in, get pictures. Look at her. Look at how she's dressed. Is there any disruption in there? She wasn't even in the house. So when you write that kind of story, and you basically have, I would say, an invention of how you are going to define me, I say, we're gonna go to court. I gotta adjudicate this. And by the time I get to court, then what happens? Everybody's got to tell the truth under oath. And there's no incident. And believe me, the CIA, the NSA, Scotland Yard, because I used to fly Margaret Thatcher, I don't think Reverend Jackson ever did anything about that, but I can tell you with the number of people who investigated all of that, they found exactly what the judge found. And so the key, though, is how does that affect you? How does that affect all those young people who are looking at me for direction? Because if you can't see it, you can't be it. So for me, I really didn't see a person in physics and mathematics, so John Glenn became my guy. I didn't know anybody who had started an aviation company. And so I looked at Borman and I looked at how Eastern Airlines in Miami and how Pan American Airlines in Miami were actually moved and how they produced themselves. And so I then basically just went for it. Those things become very, very key and critical because if you can't see it, you can't be it. And so what the press has done is with our neighborhood, it becomes easy to target a black man and take them down. The issue is if they can't make you, if it's not real, then you let that go. Because what winds up happening is when you can back that into a nice bag and put it together and shove it right back down their throats, and then call it for what it is, a racist attack on a decent man who is going to be the next senator for the state of Florida. When you bag that and you put it down their throat, it becomes choking. And so when I look at those kinds of things, the first thing I say to any person, young, old, black, brown, red, or indifferent, first thing is you never touch a woman. Because then you just open the door to a lot of bad things. For me, I didn't. And the judge obviously adjudicated that. And actually my ex-wife did as well. And we wound up growing two great men. And with the advent of my wife, my current wife, we grew three great men. Because my two sons were a part of all of our family, much like my own father who took in two kids. That's why I know I'll be with that woman forever. Because the way she loved my children and the way we grew them. And I actually, believe it or not, I love my ex-wife because we were able to reconcile. We only really had one bad argument. It just led to one thing, to another thing, and to another thing. But at the end of the day, none of that matters in the state of Florida. Because what we've got to do here is so much bigger than me. And it's so much bigger than any of these things. We are going to take Florida. We're going to show all of these children and all of these people that if you work hard, that if you're a good person and you run a good life, then you are absolutely positively going to be successful. That's it. It's just that simple. Never let anybody make you. You make yourself.
Thank you very much.
Meet Stanley Campbell, a leader for Florida's future.
A Navy veteran, entrepreneur, and advocate for working families.
Now he's stepping up to fight for us in the U.S. Senate.
I understand our challenges in Florida because I've lived them. From my early days in Liberty City to building successful businesses across the state, from Pensacola to Key West. Together, we can make a real difference.
Stanley Campbell, the People's Choice for U.S. Senate. Vote August 20th.